Hello, Amsterdam. I'm Johanna. I'm very sorry I cannot be there physically, but I'm happy to be able to send you this video message from New York. Let me begin by saying how much I enjoyed reading Mr. Mason's new book. It is exciting, thought-provoking, and enviably well written. I highly recommend it to all of you. My only problem is that I fundamentally disagree with its central argument. Let me try to very briefly sum up what I take it to be. The book contends that the utopian socialist projects failed because they took place in a world of debilitating scarcity. However, today we live in a world in which goods, services, information, and technology are abundant. And this situation changes our political predicament. It pushes capitalism to a point at which it starts to spontaneously unravel. Now, I have two critical concerns that I would like to raise here. First, it's my contention that our political predicament today is not defined by abundance, but by serious, life-threatening scarcity. We are currently using the equivalent of 1.6 planets worth of resources, and ecological assets are rapidly becoming critical. We are losing around 100 species every day, and it's estimated that about 40% of the ones still around today will face extinction by 2050. This overuse of natural resources has also devastating consequences for the billions of people living in crushing poverty in the global south who directly depend on these ecosystem services. Our most serious scarcity problem, however, is climate change. Climate change might not seem like a scarcity problem, but essentially that is exactly what it is. There's only so much space in the atmosphere for us to dump the waste from our economic activity, carbon dioxide. If we want to avoid apocalyptic eco-catastrophe and keep the average global temperature from rising above 2 degrees Celsius, we can only emit 1,000 gigatons of carbon dioxide from now on. In other words, we have a very limited carbon budget at our disposal at the moment. At the current rates of consumption, we will have blown the whole budget by 2040. When we view climate change as a scarcity problem, we can see that, like all scarcity problems, it implies tough political choices and ultimately struggles for power. Who gets to spend this budget, and what should it be spent for? Should it be spent by us in the global north to build robots and more intelligent machines to make us cappuccinos? Or should it be spent in the global south to build housing, electricity plants, public transport? I think you can already guess what my answer would be. In sum, my first point is that our political predicament today is defined by serious scarcity, and this forces us to face tough political choices and to engage in potentially very divisive political struggles. My second point is this. Let's grant, for argument's sake, that Mr. Mason is right and I'm wrong, and we really live in a world of abundance. To be fair, Mr. Mason is primarily referring to the abundance of information and technology, and for the most part bracketing the questions of how this technology is made in a world of finite resources and who has access to it. Let's furthermore grant him that this abundant infotech will cause capitalism to spontaneously self-destruct. My concern would still be that even if all this was true, it makes no difference to our political predicament. It is simply utterly irrelevant whether capitalism would or would not gradually self-destruct, because we have no time to wait for it. We have to dismantle capitalism now by deliberate, concerted political action, because it is literally killing us. Surprisingly, Mr. Mason seems to agree with me on this point. When he finally gets to the problem of climate change around page 250, he concedes that the gradual transition to post-capitalism that he has been envisaging is an airport book scenario. A good idea in a crisis-free environment, but one that we can't actually afford now. The real and urgent task ahead of us is stopping climate change, and that requires getting rid of capitalism now. I couldn't agree with him more. Unfortunately, Mr. Mason and I disagree again on how we are going to stop climate change. For him, it can be done with new technology and sustainable economic growth. For me, it requires real material sacrifices, at least in the global north, where we currently consume around 4 planets worth of resources. If we want to deal with the problem of climate change in a way that has at least some semblance to global justice, we in the global north have to scale down our consumption radically, transition from constantly growing economies to selective degrowth, make massive investments in renewable energy, and transfer huge amounts of technology and other assets to the global south so that these countries can catch up with us and make a transition to ecologically sustainable economies. Doing all this would inevitably turn our economies post-capitalist, but they would look quite different from the economies of abundance that Mr. Mason is imagining. We would have a lot more time in our hands, but we would also have a lot less material wealth. We would work a lot less, but we would still work in sectors where labor productivity remains low, such as care work. We would value things that were free, but not free because they were made by machines that last forever, but because they were made by nature. And we would all still be socialists, at least in the sense that we were passionately committed to global solidarity. Thank you.